Join me, Harriet Gould, for the Lab Matters podcast to hear fascinating stories every week from the inspiring people behind the science. Join us in this episode to hear the secret behind why managing consultant Julie Dimakou considers her 30-year career to be an ongoing gift, and hear how being a woman in science is more equal now than it was when she started out. So today we've got Julie Dimakou. Hello Julie, thanks for coming.
Hello.
Very nice to have you here. Now, Julie works in Cambridge and is in charge of the food and drinks division for Europe at the PA Consulting Global Innovation Centre. Thank you so much, honestly, for finding the time. I don't know how you've managed it. It's such a big job, and you've had nearly 30 years of working in manufacturing and technology and innovation to get there, to get where you are today. And where you are today is that you are responsible for leading innovation programs from concept all the way through to commercialization. And you advise companies on growth strategies, consumer research, and intellectual property. And I say companies, I should specify that includes startups as well as multinational corporations. But before we move into your first job and the whole of your career, I think it would be fun to perhaps just learn a little bit more about you and go back to where it all started. And you were born in Greece. Were your parents scientists?
Thanks for asking, Harry. I was born in Greece, and we do have a family with many engineers and scientists, but not my parents. So my dad was a fighter pilot in the Greek Air Force, so quite a technical job. And we have many, so I have many doctors and engineers in the greater family. I have my mother's brother who became such a famous doctor that he has a disease after my mom's maiden name. So it's Kuhn syndrome. So there are some genetic influences there for sure. And I know for myself that since I was in the early stages of the elementary school, I knew that science would be the future for me, and science technology was the place where it was happy for me. And instead of taking energy from me, it actually energizes me. So when you were describing the job and the 30 years of work, um, it sounded like, oh, I'm busy and I do quite a lot and I may be tired. But when you really enjoy this journey and you see the consequences in the society and the future of humanity, um, it gives you so much energy. So I'm really thankful that I'm well and I was healthy enough to work for 30 years and develop all these patents and innovations and novel things at the time that we now take for granted. And hopefully, I'll have the energy and health to do it for a few more years.
Indeed. I mean, you said it, but it was elementary school that you were able to recognize the fact that this type of career and this type of work energized you. I mean, that's quite insightful for someone at elementary school, I think. Did you have a teacher that helped bring that out of you or help you recognize it?
I don't have a single teacher that I can remember from so early on. But I do remember being fascinated by reading stories of ancient astronomers and what they found. For example, there was an ancient Greek guy in ancient Egypt who managed to calculate at the time the circumference of the Earth just by looking at the shadow of the sun inside a large web and the shades of obelisks different times of year. And how could someone find something that even today would be quite hard? And if you think that it's laughable, really, that even today some people think that the Earth is still flat, and someone thousands of years ago it knew how to calculate the circumference. And then there were other stories of mathematicians that would look at the stars in ancient times and would be able to predict where a new planet would appear in the sky, just by using, well, they didn't have pen and paper then, but whatever they had, uh, that was so fascinating to me. Um, and of course, the fact that we now can have vaccines that made dreadful diseases disappear. Uh, how can you not be fascinated with that? And the fact that you can be part of this huge technical volume of people that are usually quite low key. They don't tend to be famous like artists, but it doesn't matter because they feel this energy when they work.
Mm. It's so interesting. I mean, I just wish for everyone to feel that kind of energy when they work. It's almost as if for you it was a vocation, an unequivocal vocation. Um,
Definitely, I think that my work is my hobby.
yeah, that's a real joy
It's
to be in that position.
it's a gift.
Indeed. You got your BSc in chemistry in Athens, is that right?
Yes, yes, many years.
Still in this lifetime. Um, do you remember much of your time at university? Were there any standout bits where you thought, my God, chemistry is the one?
So, um, so throughout my school years, I just wanted to study any science, even maths. I was fascinated, as I explained. So any science we do at the time. Now we have degrees that offer natural sciences, and you can learn sciences as a whole. Back then, and I think even now in universities in Greece, you still have to specialize early on. Um, I was I'm very thankful that with the progress we have in the science sector, um, the physics and chemistry and biology and maths are now more merged. So even though I still practice pure chemistry very often at my work now, and I'm very pleased. I'm in an environment where other physicists and chemists work together to discover new science. Everyone knows now that all the sciences have merged, and without physics, you cannot do chemistry anymore. Without chemistry, you cannot do physics anymore. And we're so blessed this way that today that we have all these online resources that we can keep educating ourselves. And thanks to technology again, we are perpetual students of everything. It's amazing. Back when I was in my 20s at my university, I hadn't seen this coming. I'm really grateful that people develop all these online resources. And Wikipedia, for example, it's
Again?
Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Wikipedia, any online resources, they have just changed the face of science, and they have given us so much ability to develop technology so fast.
Do you not worry that there's inaccuracies online that you'd have to have a certain degree of understanding to even verify if what you're reading is accurate?
I am worried. I am worried, and for scientists like me and my team, we're well equipped to be able to cross-verify well enough what we read online. I do appreciate it's not the same for everyone. So without governments and institutions focusing on this, um, we will have to suffer for a few more years from fake science and fake news.
Feels a little bit of a precarious couple of years we're going to have to encounter. But before we go back to that, let's go back to your degree, your life as a student. After you did your BSc, you moved from Athens. Is that when you moved to England?
Yes, I only came to the UK for a year initially to study food science and engineering. And at the time, I just had to choose a more specific discipline to specialize upon. And I chose food and beverages because at the time I thought I would go back to Athens to work there. And the food industry there is quite strong and there would be lots of opportunities for me. But I guess we can never plan our life. Things happen maybe randomly, or maybe we influence our future without realizing. But I ended up staying because I just randomly applied for a job in Cambridge at the Global Research Center for Kerry Foods at the time, and I loved it, and I stayed without ever planning to stay.
And Cambridge is a beautiful city, so I don't blame you.
Yes, and it's a very nice bubble for scientists because not many places in the world you can have a neighborhood where you randomly meet people and and then you realize they're also scientists.
Yeah.
So, concentrated bubble of science and technology in a place like this.
I guess it is pretty unusual. So that's it. You were working. You'd started your career. So you got your BSc in Athens. You moved for your MSc in food science. That was at the University of Leeds. And then you applied for the job in Cambridge. You got it, and that was it. You were here. You were here to stay, even though you hadn't planned to. And so was that was at Dalgety Food Ingredients. Is that
Yes,
right?
it was then taken over by Kerry Foods.
Okay. And then you moved to a few other places. You worked at Foss. What was you were doing? What was it? It says end-to-end analytic solutions, enabling businesses to run intelligent, data-driven, high-yield processes. Now, all the clever people listening will know exactly what that means, but just for my benefit, just give me a little bit more insight into what that means in reality, day to day.
So it was so traditionally we have laboratory equipment. So when I was back in university, um, the chemical analyzers of the 80s and 90s were based on automatically replacing what we used to do in wet chemistry in labs. So thankfully, technology progressed enough to have all these amazing lab innovations and these automated, super fast analytical instruments that have transformed science in so many ways. So back then, when I went for the role in Fox, the trend was that gradually more and more wet chemistry from lab units or sometimes lab sections of quality control in the food industry was moving from the chemistry lab into the production line. So this is a trend that is now continuing and advancing rapidly. And at the time, for me, it was very fascinating because it was so cutting edge, and it actually formed a brand new science called chemometrics. So this company called FOSS is a global multinational uh, high-tech company that also uh, created new university courses in Denmark, where they're based. And what that is linked to what we were discussing earlier about the merging of sciences and maths. So it uses statistics from maths and chemistry and the technology of these lab novel pieces of equipment to to do what many of my clients used to think it was magic when I was explaining it in the past. So I was traditionally at the time working with alcoholic beverage manufacturers, and they couldn't understand how I was promising to them that we would have beer in a vial, and within 30 seconds, I would give them, using these instruments, I would give them 10 different analytical parameters in there in terms of ethanol, um, sugars, all these parameters that would normally take a whole day to find and detect. And the way Fox did it was we take, let's say, beer, we shine some specific light from a lamp source, usually infrared, through the vial, and by detecting how the beer absorbs the light, by using statistics and then more developed chemometrics, you can analyze for all these parameters within seconds. So I was naturally drawn to this technology, and I ended up working for FOSS for 6 years. So many trips to Hillerød, the lovely place in Denmark, many amazing discussions with hardware, electronics specialists, chemists, physicists, statisticians, and we developed together some amazing instruments that are keeping developed and advanced today. So from alcoholic beverages, and originally the whole, I think the original application was wheat. So how do we get the moisture analysis of wheat? But now, of course, I do lots of projects at work where we are capable of developing very bespoke automated analyzers for a very broad range of industries. So you can see why I was drawn into that Danish company so much.
Indeed. And where you work now is PA consulting. And there, you can go straight there. There've been lots and lots, but I expect we haven't quite got time to go into every single job. Although I should say that we did work together for a short time at the Royal Society of Chemistry, and that was great fun, because it meant that I met you. So then when did you first start at PA? I can't remember now.
It was 8 years ago, back in 2015. So it was interesting because when I went to work for the Royal Society of Chemistry, I thought of such an amazing place, connecting academia with startups and SMEs and large multinationals. And it was great fun to meet you and everybody else in this amazing institution. However, when I saw and understood what PA consulting does, I thought, oh, even in my older age, in my 50s, I could still go and go back to the basics of chemistry and math. And maybe I wasn't ready uh, to leave my graphs and result interpretation and go and work on to a more networking type of role. Um, so yeah, maybe I thought that I would feel younger again, and I think I was right. This is what happened. So I threw myself into the basics of science once again. Um, so yeah, I'm very pleased to say that all the people shouldn't be afraid to go back into the basics. And PA Consulting offers this because the multidisciplinary team type of work we do there, it means that sometimes I'm a chemist just advising an engineering program why things may not be working and explaining fundamental chemistry to engineers. And the other way around, in my chemistry projects, I may get an engineer explaining something about why a specific piece of equipment needs to change parameters for the chemistry to work. So I'm so blessed that I learn every day, even way into my 50s now.
Well, I'm surprised. I can't help it. I'm surprised that you think that being in your 50s is even vaguely old. It's yeah. I don't think that that's the case necessarily. But I'm glad you felt revitalized going back into the basics of chemistry again. And it's all quite top secret work that you do because you're at PA, isn't it? You're
Yes,
not.
consultancy is typically involved in very confidential projects because the global industry players very often come to us because they want to invent something and launch it in 10 years' time, and it needs to be secret. And I know it's not good for open innovation, but without it and without the commercial interest, maybe large multinationals wouldn't be as keen to invest many millions in things that would potentially save humanity from climate change um, or humans themselves from pandemics. You can imagine that a lot of our work is around sustainability and inventing new packaging. So I'm very proud that many of my projects are going to save the future world by hundreds of thousands of plastic mats. Um, but we also have projects dealing with the supply chain disruption from either COVID or from the war, or the wars, I should say, sadly. Um, and we need to keep working for a more sustainable, more cost-efficient future to keep bringing food on the table for many different generations to come. We also have many projects that look into wellness. So consumers are more and more demanding. They want to achieve health through nutrition. So obviously these projects are very important for the future of humanity. And generally, every time we use technology for the future of humanity and making it more positive, you can see that how all my teams are so energized and motivated to do their best. So we do have scientists that would happily work all weekend, and they would prefer to do that compared to socializing sometimes. And I do have colleagues that don't retired, even though I know they could, because of this energy and passion to help humanity. We also have lots of projects meeting the needs of the new generations, because our kids are going to grow up in a very different world, and we need to be prepared for that too. Yeah, lots of exciting, super exciting stuff.
Yeah. It is really exciting. I mean, what I wonder is, you said that consumers are more demanding when it comes to being healthy through nutrition. What do you think is driving that? Is it because that's possible to achieve that nowadays, or is it a messaging situation? Where's it coming from your perspective?
But we do complain about all the wrong things we can see online, but we can see a lot of correct things online too. So the consumer today is a lot more educated about what is going in the food and the food they eat. And there's very strict regulations about the ingredients labeling and the nutrition information on the packaging. So more and more people start understanding what they read, and how sugar or fat affect them, and the different conditions that they may get.
So you think the actual baseline of understanding has increased, it's elevated?
Massively, massively, which is so positive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we have so many diseases like cancer that is directly linked to obesity, and which is directly linked to what we eat, and understanding what we eat and what we should be combining together. So it's brilliant that the consumers demand this wellness through what they eat and through their habits, and for the children that they're growing up, and they need to be educated too.
So we're not allowed to talk about anything super sensitive or confidential. So we should talk about some of the other things that you notice when you're working in this environment. I mean, you said, you bump into neighbors and they happen to be scientists. You do this for a hobby. And it all sounds really wonderful and almost idyllic, to be honest, and something we can all dream of, perhaps. Has there been anything that hasn't been quite so wonderful? Have there been particular challenges along the way?
Yes, yes. So in my quest to help humanity, I had to move countries many times. I had to place myself in factories in the Netherlands for months, or a huge amount of traveling around the world. So this came with a lot of tiredness and hard work that was not always 100% pleasant. And I often found myself in Zoom calls like this one, where there was a huge team of 50 people talking, and sometimes I'm the only female there, which is it comes with its pros and cons. So I can tell that I remember years ago I called someone, and his secretary told me, "Whose secretary are you?" um, so it was interesting to navigate in a male-dominated industry, and you have to use coping techniques of how to make the fact that I'm different, how to use it to my advantage, and it's very often that I see that a male group of people in the board. They are surprised to see me talking about uh, chemistry innovations, uh, but also at the same time, I think um, they may remember me more at the end. The person that came dressed in a red or purple dress that looked different. Um, so yeah, I had some uh, interesting times. I remember that another example that was I thought was very funny. Um, Years ago, I had my own startup, and
And that was it. That was a scientific startup as well?
was yeah, it was an analytical instrument startup that I managed for 5 years before selling it. Very successful. And I remember that I would explain to people when I went to visit them to sell my products. I would explain that I am the owner of the company, the CEO. And I could tell that they didn't believe me. And they would, halfway through the conversation, they would say, um, yeah, we can have another chat with your boss next time. And I would say, yeah, yeah, I can bring more people from my team, but I am the CEO of the company.
Yeah.
So I could see that either they couldn't digest it, or maybe I was too young at the time, or maybe because I was years ago, and maybe they thought I was lying. I don't know, but I was so interesting.
It
But
is interesting. I can't imagine if I can't imagine taking anything other than at face value. If somebody said that they're in the company, I don't think I'd question it, particularly based on gender.
I think that throughout my career, I can see a shift, and especially recently, I think the pandemic helped a lot. It was a sad thing that happened, but it helped women, mainly mothers, I think, more because a lot of in the past we didn't have Zoom calls or um, all these teams innovations that help us to do meetings across the globe without actually having to travel. So I think a lot of women enjoyed this equalizing technology because in the past they were seen as too involved with the household to travel as much as men.
Mhm.
But now it doesn't matter as much
Mm.
because we can have meetings in Amsterdam in the morning and New York in the afternoon, and then still be able to cook for your family in the evening.
Yeah, I think it has made a massive difference. I think you're absolutely right in multiple ways of being able to communicate. Um, it's a game changer for sure. And of course, you have got a family. You're married to Marcus, and you've got two children. One of them's also quite scientifically minded, I believe. So you've managed to navigate it all without Zoom and come out the other end, which I find quite extraordinary. Um, Before we finish, I just wanted to just ask you about some of the pressure from, well, the professional pressure that you have to handle at work, because being a consultant does mean that you have to come up with the goods. And I've heard you describe it before, like it's like a playtime, that the bigger the challenge, the greater the fun you have. But I mean, is that always the case? And if it is, lucky you, but just talk me through that process a little bit before
It's
we
definitely
finish.
not always fun.
Okay.
Um, we so the difference between consulting and doing PhDs is that we may have to deliver the same. level of difficulty of results in fractions of time. And it's something that we're very well trained to do. But I went into consultancy when I was older, so I was a child of the industry, and in the beginning it was very very difficult to understand how can I become expert into something like cooling technologies within 2 weeks and be able to contribute into a project that needs cooling technologies. It's surprising how quickly the human brain adapts to different situations. And the teams we have now are really well trained to deliver delightful results in a very short period of time. And I now know how to turn all these challenges into fun, as you said, and see the whole thing as a game. Because for me, science and technology is very similar to a crossword. That you have someone gives you all these clues, and you have to discover the answer. And then you put the time element, and then you have to solve the crossword in a specific amount of time. You just make it more exciting, and the more exciting and hard, the more happy you are at the end when you actually solve the problem. So maybe scientists are people that maybe have a children-like brain and they like playing. Maybe, I don't know, trying to explain it sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's lovely. I think the bigger the challenge, the greater fun, and the sense of satisfaction at the end. I mean, we all know if we've got nothing to do and we achieve nothing, we don't have any sense of pride or satisfaction, and it's exactly the other way around. When you've had everything to do and you've achieved all of it, we can all be very, very proud of ourselves and have a pat on the back.
Exactly.
Or a promotion in your case, as is often the case.
As it's often the case, yes. But yeah, yeah, maybe I hadn't thought of that. I think the satisfaction I get is mainly from the actual technical challenges
Mm-hmm.
and how happy clients can be at the end when they came to us thinking that something is extremely difficult or possibly, or yeah, halfway through the conversation, they may say, we wanted that, but we know this is almost impossible. And then we say, actually, are you sure? We think we may be able to tackle it. And when they see it actually being delivered and see how happy they are, this is it's a huge reward.
Yeah, indeed. It sounds like it. Um, so I think really just before we end, I wonder if you've got any thoughts about what's next. I mean, you said already before that our children are going to be growing up in very different worlds from those that we grew up, the world that we grew up in. So, I mean, we've got a lot to choose from that seems to be spoken about a lot nowadays, like I don't know, an economy around climate change or artificial intelligence. What give us a little insight into what you think about the future and what's going to sink or swim.
Yes, so when you uh, work in technology innovations like me, you sometimes tend to forget the human insight and the human lens. And this is one of the reasons why I like consultancy so much. And I ended up sticking with it for 8 years because the innovation won't be successful unless there's a market in the future that will find it relevant. And the human brain of the new generation are so different. So we have this fantastic group in London called Human Insights, and it's the job to understand through consumer research what segments of different populations need and what they may need in the future. And it's always fascinating how different Generation Z is to every previous generation. I think that the fact that they have so many resources in their pocket because of these phones um, has created a very new breed of people, and trying to understand what they would be expecting in 10 and 20 years is really fascinating for me. So AI, of course, will become very substantial, um, but also um, how they they will they think of the social interactions in a very very different way we do, and they can have friends that they talk to on Saturday evening and have a beer with, but one may be in Russia and the other one is in Canada, and they exchange real time conversations about what people in Russia think and what people in Israel think at the same time as I read the BBC News.
Mm.
Um, has has made them very, very different, and their understanding of the world is very different. And the world has shrunk for them, and their culture is a lot more global, and we need to be prepared for this.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Well, I hope very much we are going to be prepared, and it kind of makes me feel a little bit safer knowing that you're on the case with all of it. So thank you, Julie. It's been such a joy having you tell us all about it, and getting to know you a little bit more, and hopefully lots of other people getting to know you more will have made their day as well. So thank you once again.
Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for the chat.